What's up, guys? JNandez 87 with a casual late night stream today. It's actually not live, but let's just pretend it is live, as I wish to stream live in the future here on YouTube. But for now, it's going to be a recorded video. Just for you guys, I'm going to be playing some PLO 500 across two tables. You can see here we got the red and the blue table going in the background. I'm always going to switch back and forth depending on where the action is the hottest. And also, of course, as usual, let me know in the comment section if you any sort of questions or comments in general, what kind of things you would like to see here in the future, if this video is informative or helpful to you in any way, shape, and form. And yeah, let's dive right into it, I guess. We're picking up ace, king, jack, deuce here. I'm certainly gonna call in the button against the under the gun razor. This is actually a guy I've never seen before. I'll just get rid of the chat here. I think that is unnecessary. Alright, so we flop top pair, which is not the best hand in PLO, but it is, you know, something to work with. Unfortunately, we have a third player in the pot, Alexo 18, and I will be taking a free card here on the flop. The king of diamonds is quite valuable on some turn cards. I can obviously turn the nuts as well on trips, or to pair like it is now. And I'm also sort of like isolating myself against a lot of good hands by betting. You know, under the gun's gonna have a lot of over pairs and stuff with backdoor hearts, for example. On the flop, it's gonna be check calling with. I don't really want to face that now. Alexo betting 52.25, pretty close between calling and shoving. I am ahead of a couple of value hands for sure, so mate hands I'm talking. So I'm gonna just shove at this point. Even if I'm behind, obviously I have some equity and outs to hit here. All in. And we have 72% and take this down with a boat. Pretty good start. Double suited hand here on the button on the blue table. Take that one down. Also let me know how you like, you know, the switching back and forth between the red and the blue table. If you think that is convenient, if that provides enough action and also clarity over the action. Flopping middle pair here against the big blind. We can go either way really, but there's really not much reason to bet. Go ahead and check back. Not a great turn. He bets full pot, so if he bets that big, no reason to defend here. Gonna hopefully make those switches and transitions as smooth as possible for you guys. As smooth as possible. I'm gonna try to record here a 1 hour video across those two tables to run up some stacks. As you can see, we're running at one time on both tables. And on this table, on the blue table, we pick up ace, king, queen, four, single suited. Actually, unfortunately, it's not double suited. Go ahead and call, and we turn a gutter to the nuts and then a flush draw. We'll start betting here. And take it down. Queen, queen, 10, 5 will be an open. I'm facing the call, an ace, ace, 9 with the pair of queens. I'm going to check back. Turn is the 3 of spades. Doesn't really offer that many draws. Also, I have the queen of spades, so gonna be a lot of check folding here in his hand. And on the river, I could get called by 9 or by jacks, of course. So I'm gonna go ahead and bet here half pot. Also, when I do open from the button, I'm gonna have a lot more air than if I open from, let's say, middle position or early position. So I think I can get bluff catch there, you know, some frequency at a time for sure. Also, players in general are sort of unbalanced when it comes to their checking range there when they check 3 times. So they're gonna have a lot of weak hands is what I'm saying. So I don't really fear that many check raises. Flopping here a few overcards in a backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw. We can go either way really. I have a lot of equity still against lots of hands that can bet on his end, so I'd rather bet myself and produce some fold equity. It's also not a board where I will get raised too often, and of course, as I'm saying this, facing the raise here. But even in that case, I mean, no big deal, right? I have ace high, so ace high, no significant draw. Pretty straightforward fold. If I were to have a little bit of a better hand, you know, it could be a decent spot to go for a check call. Just folding some bad hands on the red table in the meanwhile. And pick up a decent ace, ace, jack, 6 single suited. Gonna open this up on the button here. Awaiting that squeeze. Top set is fine too though. Let's see what happens. Of course we're gonna start betting here. Small blind could have a few king combos, and it's very hard for people to have flush draws as I'm holding the ace of hearts or good flush draws, so I guess our main customer is gonna be king, king, ace, king, those type of hands. Now turning the nut flush blocker, I'm gonna continue betting. And on the blue table, in the meanwhile, pick up aces in the big blind. I'm gonna go ahead and squeeze here. And gonna continue betting big now. With outs against the flush. And of course with the blocker, taking it down. And squeezing to 70 bucks with ace, ace, 8, 7 single suited. Against under the gun in small blind call. Under the gun is quite short, which makes this even more attractive. And I get 2 calls. This is a good board. There are really not many hands that I should be afraid of. Queen, queen is the only one, and that could potentially fold pre-flop in some of the ranges. I'm gonna go ahead and bet half pot here. I could also bet a little bit smaller, but I actually think I don't want to get or give them too good of a price. I'm going to bet 103 and take this down. Over on this table, I called in the small blind against a raise and a call with a king high rundown, and I'm going to check this down, although I'm not going to win in a 4-way pot. Pretty unlikely. Top 2 pair, of course. What I'm holding, plenty of straights and even flushes on the board. And we do take it down. Interesting. Interesting, interesting. It's a nice hand. Queen, jack, 10-10, single suited. Gonna be playing here. That qualifies. Take it down pre. Increasing the stacks here, step by step. Looks like people are taking their time. It's Friday night. The slow players, and I mean it, are out there. Well, I'm trying to get in some hands here. That's a pretty nice hand. King, jack, jack, deuce, double suited. You're gonna be playing in some way and fashion. Man, people are slow today. Maybe I'm just used to playing 4 tables Zoom, although that's not even true. Like I haven't played that much Zoom lately, so. Kind of surprised. Let me know, guys, if you think the action is slightly slow or not. At least at this very moment, it might speed up quick. We'll figure it out. But been playing a lot of heads up lately, and heads up, of course, you know, you get one hand after the other. You see a lot of flops, lots of action. Now facing the 3-bet here is not a great spot against such a short stack. It's really hard to say. I mean, calling is fine, given that it is double suited and the cutoff versus button. Just like checking in how many tables this guy's playing. The answer is 3. Well, let's see if he is capable of some loose stuff. Flop 2 pair here, great spot, of course. Gonna get this in. If he bets really small, could be interesting to think about slow playing, quote unquote. 85, which I don't really consider as a small bet. Jam this in here. All in, gonna run it one time. We might run into kings, but probably not. That's a bad turn. That's a bad turn. Over on this table though, we are facing a big pot here, and I really don't think we can fold. So action was min raise pre, I call. Big blind really short, goes ahead and squeezes, call, call. Big blind jams flop, I have the overpair and the second up flush drawn in three-way pot. And, you know, there's like not really many hands I'm in bad shape against, so the money will go in here, on my end at least. And getting called here, 44.9%. And unfortunately, the big blind picks up a flush, but I still win a ton of money. The nature of side pots, so that was pretty sweet there. The button had 5544, which is basically an open ender and bottom pair. He was in terrible shape, specifically three-way, and I think pretty strong overplay there. He should have just flatted against that shove, but pretty sweet for me. So in that hand, I won like, you know, from 790 up to 1.18k. Pretty substantial. Nice hand here, ace, king, queen, 8 double suited. Certainly qualifies. And take it down pre. Over on this table, on the blue table, we got the magic. We got ace, ace, 6-5 double suited on the cutoff seat. Unfortunately, lots of folds so far. And the call, we flopped the flush, we flopped the nuts with the 6 high blocker there to the straight flush. So we're obviously in great shape here. I'm gonna start betting on this board. I'm gonna start betting quite big, I think. Give me some action. No dice. I'm gonna come up in the future, of course, with some sort of overlay here to make things more visual, in case you care. Let me know in the comments if you know how you like this sort of setup. I'm obviously in the green screen here, and there's plenty of space for the table, so you can see like what the action is. I'm playing basically one table on screen. I can switch back and forth, so you can really just watch the action very properly without having to have a very close look. So it's good, you know, if you're on your mobile phone, for example. But let me know, you know, where you're watching this from, and if you like that type of format, if you think I should be playing 2 tables at once, or if you prefer it that way. What do you think about an overlay? Should I get like those borders and fancy things, or just like keep it real like this? Let me know. Opening it up here on the button, a little bit smaller, big blind is quite short. And getting called, flopping bottom pair, and an up flush, struggling to check back here. I have some pretty good 2 pairs, specifically if I keep his range wide. And of course I have some deceptive outs to the nuts here. Very bad turn and very bad price, so will end up being a fold. But you do want to have some nut flush draws in your check back range, and that hand is a good candidate to choose from. I'm gonna be calling this hand in the big blind as well against Cielita. And I'm gonna be check folding this flop here. Goes check, check. And we lose against King Jack. Easy open raise, middle position, ace, jack 10-7, 2 clubs, to the ace. Pretty normal, getting called here. 5-5-4 is a board where I'm gonna go ahead and bet a third of the pot. Sometimes I'm getting called. Now, I'm going to check here. I think we gotta be quite careful just because his preflop range is gonna be quite uncapped. At least I think so. Like, he just up with queens, he could easily show up with kings or ace king king or ace ace, the weaker ones, and just call down or call down queens. And I think you want to be careful they're not over bluffing too often. I think that was a fine spot to give up. Ace ace 4-7 single, facing the undergun raise. So really dependent on what the action now is, if we're gonna get some calls here or not. No callers, just gonna flat. Can't really get that much money in. And that's a pretty good flop. That's a pretty good flop. Quite deceptive, I guess. So I'm gonna be check calling here. I don't think I wanna have too much of a check raising range. Wouldn't be the worst, but it's really hard for him to have something very strong here. He's betting into 3 players. Still though. It's a pretty nice turn. It could give him trip jacks or ace jack, of course, if possible. Jack beating me at this point, of course. Bets 80 bucks. Oh, we didn't give him the bad news or just call. I think we're just gonna call. He could be bluffing, could be value betting thin, like Jack X, which is not really thin, but I'm talking about the river. So I could have ace X of spades at this point, or ace king that doesn't believe him. Plenty hands I could have as a bluff catch, but not really many hands I could have that would be raise bluffing now. So just gonna call. And now actually I'm gonna lead the river, I think, for a small amount. I think it is possible he's still going to shove with ace jack. And I'm basically wrapping it up flush here, but of course I'm holding a boat. And he goes ahead and folds, maybe checking was the better play. And here I'm picking up, of course, the bullets in a very big pot. And I'm gonna shoving the money here. I already have a pretty deep stack. I'm gonna run it 2 times if possible. Now I 3-bet against the middle position opener. We got the cold 4-bet from Beowulf and the call now from the uncle. So we're gonna get it in and really hope that Beowulf has kings and other aces. So we're not gonna share those cards. That would be very nice, but we'll see what happens. All in, aces, aces, and the rundown. That's a bad turn. That's a bad turn. Bad news for both of us, I guess. And we are going to lose that pot against the rundown. Of course, the rundown runs into aces twice. I know you can't see it, but let me just check in on the equities here. Once the money went in, and the answer is I had 36.8 and the rundown had 38.8. So pretty close to each other. I'm gonna be opening up ace, ace, 9-7 singles to the nuts. The uncle who has been in a pretty interesting spot there with the rundown. Folds though in the big blind. Yeah, I mean, he was the favorite in terms of equity. He had the rundown against aces twice. Great spot for him there. And he got rewarded for the quote-unquote gamble. But certainly I can't fold, because if my opponent in the big blind, the cold 4-better, has ace king king or king king, it's just a great spot. And I certainly want to get in the money there. For sure. Kind of a loose open from middle position. I think though on this table fine. And over on the blue table, I'll just fold here. I defend in the big blind with king, queen, jack, deuce. And I am going to call the flop, of course. If he checks, I'm going to check as well. There's not that much to protect against. I don't really want to build the pot. He bets 941. Very clear call. I want to raise here I want to raise here different hands. And certainly make the call of king, queen. Try to show this down here. King jack, even better than king ace or king queen now at this point. Check, check, and we are going to win. And although we took a small hit there with the aces, we are still in good shape here on both tables. Doing pretty fine. Clear open on blue table, jack 10, 9, 8, single suited, getting 3-bet here, unfortunately. From the button, of course, we're gonna call and have a flop. This is a good flop. We took top pair and got shot backdoor flush draw. And some pretty good 2 pairs. They're gonna be quite light. So we're not folding here. If he bets full pot, which would be weird, but he bets full pot, it's really close. I think I'm gonna call. It is possible he has diamonds, but kind of unlikely, so the question really is, do I want to bluff diamonds or not? But on the other hand, I'm going to have a lot of diamonds in my range when I call here, so I expect a diamond to go check here really often, then we'll have to make a river decision. That is an interesting card too. And I actually think I'm going to bet small on that card, like 90. I do think I want to bet here sometimes when I have a 9 in order to avoid a check back from a hand like aces or a flush draw. And it's also a great way to get a cheap river card sometimes if I do have a draw. Goes ahead and calls, and we river a boat. Of course, we're going to be shoving here. All in. He's certainly getting quite a price here. 10 high probably isn't good. So it looks like he had a combo draw there on the flop, pressuring, and might have made more money by checking the turn card, but you never know. And I think, you know, we do want to lead there sometimes. Certainly, like if you have an interesting hand like that one you want to comment on, make sure to just like leave a timestamp in the comment you're making, so that I know and can go back quite more easily. And, you know, look back at the hand and give some feedback, and we can start a discussion. You know, more than happy to do so. Just let me know in the comment section, you know, this hand, here's the timestamp, here's my comment. That makes it the easiest for me to sort of like recall the action and just quickly look back at it. But we are chipping up here to almost $1,000 on the blue table. We also have, or the red table more, so we have 735. Facing the under the gun 3x here, just going to be calling with king, king, jack, 8. Against cutoff, we are certainly 3-betting, but under the gun is supposed to have a tight range, and I've never seen this guy, so maybe it would have been better to 3-bet, but I'm not going to make those assumptions. Turn is an ace. I'm going to start betting here quite big. Repping king, queen, of course, and you know, one of the problems of that hand or that spot in general is that people are going to put me on king, king here quite often. But I do have to find some bluffs on the turn, and this is a good one to pick, a decent one to pick. I also have some outs. And we pick up the pot. On the red table, I opened up from middle position, get 2 callers, flop 3 pair, backdoor flush draw, and a gutter. And I do check into the field. We are turning a flush draw on top, and I check here one more time. I don't think there's too much value, and I also think there's not much protection needed. I also have diamonds or spades more so to go with. Check here one more time. Trying to get to showdown, and we are going to showdown and win this hand. Yeah, there's certainly quite a relaxed format, and you know, 2 tables provide plenty of action. This is actually a fold here, in my opinion, at least. Specifically now on like a Friday night, this provides sort of like a good flow for myself to explain things, but at the same time not over explain. Certainly opening it up here on the button, ace king king, flipping a gutter in an overpair. I'm gonna start betting 50% of the pot and calling a check raise in case it is coming. It's gonna have more 2 pairs than me. It's gonna have more sets. It's gonna have more wraps than me, and I will have to find some hands to call with, and that seems to be a good one. A good pick: ace queen 10-5 double suited, clear 3-bet or open. that was weird. Clear call or 3-bet, I'd say. Against unknown deep stacks here out of position, just gonna flat. Interesting flop. I think it's a good one to be check raising. I have 2 backdoor flush draws. I have some backdoor straight opportunities, and of course the gutter that should be quite live. Question just is, you know, is this guy folding if he has something like a pair of aces or kings? And I guess there's only one way to figure out, right? I'm gonna be check raising here to 75 bucks. Quite a big check raise, of course. I'm gonna have a lot more 2 pairs than him. Also, there are some straightening runouts where I don't have a straight with the ace-5 that I can bluff quite well because those cards are not so well represented in his pre-flop range. I'm taking the mark here. Now, 10-10-9-5 is going to be a tricky decision against the button open, against the cutoff open, but mostly going to be just calling and check back here on the flop. Don't want to just bluff everything, and holding a pair is a pretty good reason to just like take this hand into your check give up range slash showdown range, trying to win by showdown. Over on the blue table, we pick up king 10-9-7 double suited, certainly a 3-bettable hand, but not against the under the gun raise. Just gonna flat there, take a flop, and I'm gonna be check raising here for very similar reasons than before. The under the gun range is not gonna have many jack, 6, 6, 5, 5, jack 6, jack 5, and so on. But Parker King goes ahead and checks back. We pick up pretty good showdown value. We have a double gutter and the king, of course. So one more check here and trying to see a river. And on this river, I don't think there's much reason to be bluffing. We do have some pretty decent showdown value, so I don't mind checking. And taking this down. Over to the red table, ace king king a rainbow. Would be nice to play against the cutoff with short stack. I could just be 3-betting basically, and almost getting in stacks here. But it will turn out differently. That is for sure. Exhalator, what are you gonna do, buddy? Folds, huh? All right. Queen 10-10 deuce, flopping top pair and backdoor stuff. Start floating here. We have queens as well. In terms of hitting straight blockers or a set or 2 pair or backdoor flush draw, I think would be too weak to just go ahead and fold. Now facing this biggish bet here, my equity drops down and my blockers lose on value because I only have 1 street to bluff. Going to be dropping those hands, or this hand, and opening up ace, ace, 8 deuce, and queen, queen 10-9. Interesting flop. I mean, middle positions range is pretty strong pre-flop, or should be. We do have some options though. We have backdoor, straight draw, backdoor flush draw, set outs. I'm gonna start check calling, flop check folding turns that are bad, like a 4 of clubs, for example. Even against half pot, we're so much behind against many hands, like any king X basically. So I think check call, check fold is fine. And opening it up here against Dan Few and Parker Kane. 2 bodies of mine. Let's see what the response is. Dan Few with the 3-bet. Easy call, of course. Flopping the nut flush draw on a board that's quite good for him. It's actually very good for him. So I'm not going to be raising if he bets. Just going to call. plenty of king king in his range, or king queen jack, ace queen jack, ace king xx. So pretty easy call. Of course, like my hand is probably one of the hands that wants to shove here, just because I really don't pick up anything on turns. But again, I think the board is too strong to consider this. Wouldn't be a bad play, of course. It's hard to do much wrong here. 100 big blinds deep with a nut flush draw. Turning a gutter, and given the sizing here, he's going to be pricing me out. Yeah, I think, you know, it's not cool, of course, to fold like a gutter and a nut flush draw, but you know, you got to be realistic about the pot odds here and the price. The price plays a very big role in PLO. It's quite a mathematical game in terms of pot odds and percentages to win. So I'm going to be folding this hand here. I might go over it at some point in a different video. Let me know, guys, if you're interested in this hand in the breakdown in the comment section, but I'm going to be folding here, unfortunately, facing the pot size bet on this turn card. Of course, this was not one of my better turn cards, although I didn't have that many great turn cards, to be quite honest. Opening up here a little bit smaller because the button is quite short. And on this board, I'm going to start betting, actually. It's not the greatest board for my range, but I do want to have some bluffs, and this seems to be a reasonable one. Specifically for future runouts, of course. Easy fold on the flop. Queen, queen, 9-4, single suited on the button, gets opened, and on this board, I'm certainly going to check back. I keep you in the loop. In the meanwhile, I'm opening double suited ace, king, 2 high suits with a deuce and an 8, and I flop the second up flush draw, some overcards, and some middling and undercards. Just going to be checking here. Of course, one of those middling hands where I don't really mind putting into my checking range, because we do want to have some check calls here and check raises. I think check raising is fine if my opponent bets something like 20, but with 40 bucks, he's not going to be folding. So I'm just going to call here and stack up on this turn for sure. He checks back, and we're going to give him another option to bluff here on the river in case he wants to, but he bets 60. 60. Yeah, I think we're gonna jam here. Of course, sometimes gonna have the nuts, but I don't think that often, to be honest. And I definitely see some calls here from weaker, but he folds. Pick up this pot, chip up to 930 bucks, and here on table red we have king, king, 8-4. Of course, opening it up against a limper. He goes for the limp raise, pretty interesting. I'm gonna call. Pretty good flop. And he bets full pot, and we do have a 4 on top. Just gonna call. Again, not a great price we're getting here, of course, but that is a bad turn card. He checks though. Wow. Goes for a limber raise and bets pot. So now here's one of the problems, you know, of betting full pot here is his limp raising range. Yeah, could have aces and maybe we can get him off, but the thing is, like, he's not holding air here ever because he was betting full pot on the flop. So it's very dangerous to take lines early in the hand that will sort of reveal your hand very clearly. And here in this instance, I think he's gonna have like a lot of pretty good hands. Interesting river. I mean, I'm not gonna bluff because, yeah, okay, because I have kings and that can easily win a showdown. And also another thing that I think sort of like comes out of this stream today is that bet sizing is really important. Like the bet size you're facing have a big influence on how many hands you want to call down with, you know. I think a lot of people sort of detach there and are like, well, I have like a bluff catcher, he could be bluffing, I'm gonna call. But it really has a ton to do with what sizing he's choosing and how much he's basically risking, which is incentivizing you or disincentivizing you to call more or less. Of course, calling here in the big blind and flopping, pretty significant, but we're gonna check and trying to keep as many players in the loop as possible. In the meanwhile, on table red, we are gonna go for the slow play here with ace, ace, king, 7. We got some players behind we probably wanna get involved with. Keep you also updated on there. Certainly gonna call here, even though it's pot size. We do have a gutter and an up flush draw, and there are multiple streets to play. He is deep. Even if he has a hand like king king, we're gonna have some implied odds, of course, on the straightening cards, but even on the flush cards, he's going to be most likely paying off some. And we do turn the nizzles. So I'm going to bet here quite big. I think that he's going to have a ton of king, and with king is going to be willing to call quite a bit bet, even though there are not many implied odds here. So I'm going to go ahead and bet this sizing, which I think is incorrect for him to call here, just because I'm not going to stack off if the river is paired. But of course, we're going to hope for a call here and a break river in the tank. If he has a bad flush here, or a weak flush more so, I think it would be a pretty poor call. Just given that the flop action was 5-handed, that really narrows down the bluff combos I could have there. And he goes ahead and folds. Probably the best decision. I mean, it is just the best decision. It doesn't really matter what he had, I guess. It was the best decision. Pretty weak hand here, but we are going to go for the small blind steal in case we get to the point, or the over limp. Min raise we're not going to call. And decent hand here for under the gun, king, queen, jack, 9. It's not a great hand, but it's acceptable. You know, one of the drawbacks of this hand is when we do get 3-bet, there's going to be a lot of hands that dominate us. It's not as bad as if we were to have an ace, but yeah, it's not a great spot. Flip the nuts here, and we're going to start betting. So our under the gun range will have a lot of pairs like king, some queen, some connected high cards. He 3-bet, he's going to have a lot of ace, so therefore this is a good board for me. Start betting here. I don't need to bet huge, just because I'm not saying, hey, I did flop a straight. What I'm saying is this is a better board for me. I'm allowed to bet small. And on this table, flop goes check, check after I defend in the big blind. And this is sort of the same story. No reason to bet huge. It's a good spot for me in general. I can have a lot of 2 pairs. I can have some bluffs here as well, but no need to bet like very big. And I do have the nuts this time. So getting called, rivering an 8, and we're still holding a straight, of course. I'm going to bet here. I don't think betting big really does that much in this instance. Hard to get called, hard to get called. Hard to get called by an under the gun range because they're not going to have that many of those 7-8 type of cards. More so like over pairs and gutters on the turn. He might turn something into a bluff though. Like a 10-10 type of hand. He raises almost min. We got a straight. So like 6-9 is a straight. 10-9 is a straight. He raises basically for min. I'm going to call my straights here. I don't think he's bluffing really very often, but he doesn't have to for this price. And he is. I mean, come on, Danfi. Got to put in the chips there. A little bit more chips. Again, it's all about the price. If you're getting a good price, you know, just going to call. Anyway, I pick up a bottom pair and a gutter and a flush draw here. Blind versus blind. Just going to check back. I'm going to have like pretty good turn cards that I don't want to have a bloated pot on. Now turning straight. He's betting. This is quite weird. I mean, why would he bet on this card when he opens from the small blind? Let him bluff if he is bluffing, and let him catch up if he is drawing to something like ace jack or whatnot. I'm going to bet the river here small. I don't think we can get away getting called here very often. Another blocker bluff. This time from Beowulf, maybe? No. Opening up on the button here. Ace, jack, 7-5, double suited. This is an okay board for me, and for the big blind it's also a fine board. Although that can't not really be the case. I think it's probably a little bit better board for the big blind, but not by that much. Just because I'm also going to have some of the rundowns. Of course, going to call here. This is one of the hands I'm going to call fold right quite often. And it's important to have some of those in your hand, you know. The thing is, a lot of people, from my understanding of what I see basically in here, is they're very afraid of like calling hands that can't call turn cards. But the thing is, you gotta have hands in your range, in your calling range, that are folding against further action. Otherwise, they're gonna be super exploitable if you have only hands that can call. So some hands will call fold, and of course, you know, I had some good turn cards, and also if the action goes to checks down, I can also win. So it's not like it's just terrible. I'm gonna just check back here. It depends really on the pair and the draws that I'm holding. But under the guns against big blind, under the gun against big blind, like this board here, I think I can just get away betting a lot of the times, but I like to just check my better pairs, specifically when I have straight draws, because I might get bluffed on one of those low cards, like a 5, or led into. And also by checking, people can obviously pick up the backdoor flush and beat me. But in seriously, they can, of course, turn top pairs and stuff and call or bluff. So I think it's sort of like a matter of which pair you have if you think about checking back, and ace king king seems to be one of those pairs that doesn't need a lot of protection. Let's have a look how many guys are in the pool anyway. We got a lot of players here. We got 78 entries, which is great. Let's have a look how many one tablers we have here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, a lot more. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We got 17 one tablers. Of course, one of them is odd odds, and so that doesn't really count. I guess he's playing like the short-handed 10-20 at the same time. But the point is, good times. Friday night, around 1 a.m. Who would have thought that they had good action at this time? Who would have thought that? Call in the big blind with Jack 10, 6 deuce double suited. And check the turn. And fold. And gonna call in the small blind here with ace, queen, jack 4. Double suited. Not a great board. I mean, do have bottom pair, but he's gonna have a lot of my cards covered. It's hard to make 2 pair. And even if I were to make, let's say the turn is a 5 or a 6, 7, like those cards that don't really get to rep with my small blind calling range, I'm gonna have a lot of kings, and he will have a pretty good job figuring out how to either barrel me off or how to get away from his hand. We do have the backdoor flush as well, so yeah, I'm gonna make this call. I think I will get a lot of free turn cards. On those cards here, I don't think he's gonna bet. He's also not gonna believe me if I lead this turn card, as a side note, but I also get a lot of free cards and then shots at either hitting on the river like now or bluffing if I don't. I'm gonna bet half pot here and take it down. So certainly not a crystal clear float on the flop. And I do think there are gonna be some guys out there who are like, I'm gonna float this all day long. And that's fine, you know. Everybody has their own game plan. I'm gonna call here on the button. I'm gonna have some high cards in my calling range here. 3-betting I don't really like with ace, king, 10, 5. Now we get squeezed, which I also don't like. Not much fun. In the meanwhile, on the red table, I defend in the big blind. Against the button open, we flop a wrap and the second up flush draw. I'm gonna be check raising turn card here after check action on the flop, and rivering a straight. Sorry for the turning quite quickly here. The transitions are a little bit too quick now. Anyway, getting squeezed and facing the call. I am going to call, but this is obviously not a great spot. It's not a horrible spot either, just because this guy, the Tyson player in the small blind, gets to shove some boards, and then it's gonna be a very awkward decision for Grinder HFX. So let's see. Not a great spot. So if Tyson shoves, we have to fold here. We just don't have the equity against aces, and aces is going to be a very, very big part of his range. Mixed with some kings. 227. We need 38% equity in that neighborhood, and we're not going to have that type of equity here. Just waiting to see if Grinder, you know, calls or commits. We can see what the hands are. can get some confirmation. I know you guys like to sweat those hands. I want to see what happens too. Pretty much dead for me in this turn. All in. Grinder's gonna call, of course. And aces against the ace-king mistake. I guess. I mean, in Grinder's shoes, he had 2 backdoor flush draws, but he also had me behind. So I actually think, you know, he should have folded before the flop against the squeeze with ace-king double suited. Just because he had ace-king 3-9 double suited with 1 player behind against a very, very aces-heavy range. And I do think it's a pretty clear fold before the flop. But of course, not everyone likes to fold versus 3 bets, which is fine too. Opening up queen jack 10-9 single suited, of course, from all positions. And the cutoff is one of those. 1 call, 1 man down, and a squeeze. This is one of those uncomfortable situations because, again, we got the short stack. It's going to shove into those 2 deep stacks. You know, myself and the guy to my left. But I do have a hand that actually has quite a bit of... has good connectivity and quite a bit of vision over the pairs that he's flopping. Better than ace-king 10-5, for example. So, pretty clear call. And this is one of the boards where we clearly can get in the money. The question is, are we going to call or shove? So by shoving, I think we are achieving some things. For example, we are achieving that a hand like kings is folding, but it doesn't really help us that much because we need to make that straight anyway. So I think I'm just going to call and let the button here overcall with like 7-9 or... I mean, I don't think the difference is huge, but I do need to make that straight to win, and I can't fold. I don't think shoving accomplishes really much. We need to beat Quisk here very often by hitting a straight or trips, and I think that hand, so a straight or trip's gonna win against Escalator's stacking range as well. So I call, and we're flipping here. Rivering a straight the first time and turning a straight, but he rivers a boat, and we chop up the money. Which is fine too. To another body of mine, Quisk. Gonna overcall here. Queen 10, 7-6 double suited. We're in. Check the flop here with a gutter and a flush draw. We are 5 ways, so of course, like those 2 spades, they don't look as interesting anymore. But let's see what the sizing is, right? Sizing is pretty important. So 1686. We do have backdoor flush draw. Are we going to get ourselves into trouble here? I think we are. I mean, it's not a great spot, that's for sure. Specifically in the small blind being out of position here. Let's look for a 5 of clubs. Let's just see that 5 of clubs roll off. I think if we are 4-way and the turn is a 5 of clubs, I'm going to lead. Wow. I mean, that's certainly not a bad card as well. Although it might be a card that gets me into trouble here one more time because the other flush draw could be, of course, dominated by the ace of clubs. We'll figure it out, guys. We'll figure it out. We're going to see that river card. Let's put it that way. At least most likely. So we have basically a wrap and 2 flush draws. But, of course, like certainly not... Oh, what a river. The nuts. That's so crazy. We have so many non-nutted rivers, but now we're going to make the nuts here. So check raise or bet. I'm going to go with bet here. I'm going to go for 75. Trying to get called, of course, by a smaller straight. If we were 3-way, I mean, check raising could be a thing. 4-way, I think betting is better. The likelihood of a 7 just checking is higher, of course, when we're 4-way. And we take it down here. Unfortunately, without further action. Fine for me, we're chipping up here. We have 1.2k and $726. So far so good. Under the gun limp here. And we're gonna overlimp with the ace-x of hearts. And we do flop an open-ended straight draw and the nut flush draw and a draw to the straight flush. 4 of hearts would be pretty sweet. Oh, you can't see it. There it is. So over limp, flop when checked through. I'm gonna bet the turn now for 10 bucks. Just 10 bucks, guys. Keep you updated. Opening here from middle position. Ace, queen, jack, jack, single suited. Pretty standard. Getting called. 10, 7, 5. Could be checking, to be honest, just because it's not a great board for my range, but this hand is a little bit too strong. Okay. So the problem is when he check raises, like the blockers, they don't function as well anymore. Still gonna call though, because we have some pretty nice turns like a king or a 9 or a jack. And of course a club, even an ace. It's not bad at all. So let's see that turn card. Nice, 7 of diamonds. Of course, when we have the clubs, it's gonna have clubs really infrequently. It's gonna have 10, 10, 10, 7 very much more often. And the sizing is also not that inviting, so I'm gonna drop this one. You know, that deep check raising ranges are really narrow, and they either contain the ace x of clubs or the bare ace x, the bare ace of clubs, or they have 2 parent sets. And you know, because I already block one of the regions so strongly with the ace jack of clubs, you know, this is not a good spot here to call. We are out. Gotta work with your blockers, guys. And as usual, feel free to comment, fire out in the chat, whatever you feel, whatever's in your heart, put it out there, guys, whatever's in your heart. Okay, I mean, not whatever, but, you know, if it's reasonable, put it out there. Top set, it's also kind of reasonable, pretty reasonable. Let's make it 66. 66% fold, all right. That was a mistake, that was a mistake. But I could certainly see myself doing more of those. If you guys like it, of course. If you guys give me the love. Opening 10, 10, 7, 6 here, single suited on the button. Quite standard. We are deep stacked. And we're gonna call this 3-bet from BO Wolf 3182 from the Netherlands. Call. And we flop a straight, blockers to a straight, and the flush draw, and the pair, and the draw to a straight flush. Welcome to the great game of Pot Limit Omaha. He should just check every single hand in his range. I am O. And I'm gonna bet small. I'm gonna bet. Actually, this would be a good hand to slow play. Yeah, I'm gonna actually slow play, so I'm gonna be stabbing on this board really often. But if you think about my blockers, if you think about the vulnerability of my hand, I think checking is a good play here. Unfortunately, it doesn't bite on the turn. Let's see if you can bite on the river. Do it. And you know, and that's what I mean with like people have very unbalanced check back ranges here, and you can see that I'm holding some good hands here as well, where I can call some hearts, where I can call some blanks down, and I think you gotta like take care of those ranges basically. So on the river, I'm gonna make this bet here, of course. Wow. I'm ranting it down here how well balanced I am, and he just calls it a better hand. Yeah, I mean, that's totally fine, of course. Now, interesting enough, if I would have bet, I mean, I would have lost more for sure, because, you know, folding, it's probably going to check call the flop that deep. Was 3-betting King Jack 6-3, double suited out of position here that deep. I don't really like it. I think calling is better just because you're just, you know, that deep, and the 6-3 is really going to put the ranking of your hand down dramatically. But more power to him. Did win that hand. Under the gun, ace 10-3. I'm gonna just check back, give up on this board. I have so many better hands from my under the gun range, and open up this beautiful ace, jack 10-8, double suited. We want the call. Come on, man. Nice. Not flush draw, a couple overcards back, or straight draw. I'm gonna check back here, and turning the queen. Gonna check back one more time, trying to improve and check down or bluff river. And in that instance, we are going to check, of course, because any vote beats us, and we win. Pretty nice hand over here. Ace, king, king, jack. I'm gonna actually just call. Usually be 3-betting here, but we got some pretty interesting players behind. Let's get them in. They're all in. I mean, they're not all in, but they're all in the hand. Check on the flop, of course. Trying to spike that king. Come on, 40 is quite a big bet here. And I mean, that's really where bet sizing comes in one more time. You have to think about, you know, this bet sizing, how often does it have to work? What is the shared responsibility across all players? And I could be calling here or folding. I'm last player to act. I think I'm gonna call. Yeah, it's, you know, it's not, it's certainly not clear just because the pot was 4-way on the flop. And again, it's one of those hands going to be called folding. Now I'll keep you updated. It goes check, check. By the way, I'm going to check the river as well and be 3-betting here. Also more interested, it goes check, check, and he does have a queen, unfortunately. More interesting here is 2 high suits. Pretty nice hand to play in a 3-bet pot. Those high flush draws, they play very well at lower SBRs. You can just bet jam, get the money in quick, which is great. Jack deuce deuce is going to play very well for me as well. I'm going to be betting something like 40 bucks. Seems good. Let's give it a second. In the meanwhile, defending the big blind. A hand that could be 3-bet, but 3-way doesn't play as well as a 3-bet. I don't really like this line here, by the way. Getting checkmate raised. I think just check calling is better, and, you know, keep my bluffs in there and also keep my aces in there in case he does have a boat. But it goes ahead and check raises, and I'm folding, of course, my ace high. Trying to get the showdown here with king jack 8-9. And pretty much same story on the river. Keep you updated, guys, although I don't even have a hand here. This is the hand, sorry. I don't think I missed too many transitions here from red to blue. Let me know for sure if you think I did miss a couple, but I think it was pretty okay for the first time here. Yeah, but certainly, like, let me know if you made it this far. You're clearly enjoying this type of content, so let me know if you want to see 2 tables or 1 table in general when we play the Zoom format. Betting turn here on the blue table. After the flop went check, check, I defended the big blind. We turned the straight, rivers and ace. I'm gonna fire through here, of course. 50 bucks. Hoping to get into ace ace here, and he has called and loses with ace ace of diamonds. Yeah, that was a quite obvious customer there. But I'm not talking about the player, I'm talking about the hand, ace ace with diamonds. So another 3 minutes to go, guys. I hope you enjoy this content. Again, if you do, hit that subscribe button and leave a like. That would be very much appreciated. Ace, king, king, jack under the gun, of course. Easy open, getting called here. Close between betting and checking. I think checking is totally fine. It's very hard in check back pots here to call a lot of turn cards like this one. And therefore I want to have a slightly stronger check back range that can call turns like that. He checks back, you know, he checks 3 times really quick here. I think again he's going to be unbalanced. Most likely, at least, like not chuck raising that often, and therefore I go for the late river value bet and flopping 2 pair. It's not a great spot here against the button. I'm gonna call fold again. Alright, so I actually think I have a good hand to be bluffing. I have the queen of hearts firstly, and then secondly I also have pretty much no worse hands in my range here. Very hard to have anything weaker than 7-5. Yeah, I do have 2 pair, but there are a lot of straights and flushes out there that I could have, and sets. And he calls with 6-6-9-9. Interesting pick. Yeah, I mean, I don't really agree, I would say. Just because I guess the most important blockers he wants to have are going to be hearts. And again, I mean, I'm totally fine with my play in terms of, you know, you want to pick the weakest hands. Bluffing on the river with 7-5 was one of those candidates for sure. Now on the left hand, I have a great hand. And as a side note about that hand, you know, you want to sometimes call light on the flop because you do need those bluffs on the river when the turn goes check check. And if you find yourself repetitively in situations where you are not having enough bluffs on the river, that's probably the reason. You know, you don't float or bet the flop light enough in order to show up with those bluff combos. Snap cold call of the 3-bet from Accelerator or Accelerator. And we are an interesting decision point here. So deep stacked against one player, reasonably deep against the other. 3-way, I'm actually going to check back and trying to turn in diamond or an 8. Although the 8 is not even that clean. It looks like, okay, almost looks like this guy has different plans here. 2 of clubs. That is certainly a bad card for me, or for my range, because overpair and flush draw in my shoes will be bet. Will be betted, as well as, of course, 10, 10, 9, 9. So this is the worst card for me if you compare it by players. Check, check. I take the free card, of course. Trying to check this one down. In the meanwhile, we get 3-bet here on the right table. 100 big blind Steve, ace, ace, 5, 3 single suited. Could be an okay candidate. By the way, we're gonna fold here. Could be an okay candidate to, you know, sometimes flat. But the way I see the environment here, people are just not folding against 4-bet, so I'm just gonna 4-bet. Or not often. I mean, he might this time. The hands I would probably slow play here more would be better aces. But just going to call. And also I would be flatting more situations where my opponent's range would be tighter. So spots where I'm opening an early position and he 3-bets. And it's gonna have like more ace, king, queen, ace, king, 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 king type of hands. Here you can still have a lot of double suited stuff, and therefore it's gonna call a lot of 4-bets. Let's get this money in here, of course. No way around it. He has a hand that beats me on that run out. Split it up here. So he doesn't fold ace king 6-5. So, and that's pretty much, you know, what I'm talking about in general. Like, people are not folding against 4-bets. So, you know, if that is also the case in your, you know, at your stake, then certainly make sure to 4-bet your aces as often as possible, and, you know, take that max value and let your opponent make those mistakes. This is a somewhat marginal open just because of the stack sizes in play here from in position. And we're going to end this spot here in the big blind on both tables. Interesting flop. We're going to be bet calling here. $70. Yeah, I'm just thinking if I want to go over the top. I don't think that makes any sense really with my range. So just gonna call. So some turns. Not a great turn. Probably gonna be folding against a bet there, but I'm gonna have plenty of like ace-ace with a gutter that turned it straight or turned the flush draw in a gutter. So folding on the other table. On this table, I call a 3-bet flop bottom 2 pair. And this check seems to be, in my in my opinion, quite unbalanced, because a lot of the hands that have a pair here are just gonna commit. So he checks the turn. Wow, this is a bad card, but against ace high, I'm gonna be ahead. So I think I want to protect here actually. This is kind of weird. This is a weird spot now. And really based very much on assumptions that, you know, he's weak basically. But he is calling, unfortunately. And I'm just going to give up here because it's not like I'm wrapping that many good hands after not betting the flop. And you know, the turn takes away a lot of combos of my value hand with the flop action combined. And I'm actually ahead. So a small, little, tiny, sexy value bet there. Ace, king, 6-9 double suited. We're going to be playing this hand. But it also shows, you know, how people are, or some, you know, players sometimes at least are a little bit unbalanced in certain situations, and you can take advantage of that. So this hand can go either way here. It depends on the range of your opponent, players behind. I'm gonna call here, trying to get the big blind in. He was the player who was making the 6-6-9-9 call before, so he probably has like a little bit of looser ranges in general. And thresholds for doing stuff. Backboard for the middle position player, I'm going to check as well. I don't have any diamonds. I also have some cards I want to hit, like a 7 or a king or an ace. Check once more. This is a bad run out, feels Batman, and I can't even rep anything. But I think this hand makes sense to just check, and you know, he's going to check flop and even a lot of turn cards with full range. Check, check. And this time he has not such a great hand, but again, I think it makes a lot of sense the way he played this hand. But you know, I also make a lot of mistakes, and people let me know in the chat of YouTube all the time. So feel free, you know, to let me know if you agree or not on certain plays here. This guy has pretty wide ranges. I could be 3-betting here, but I do want to be a little bit more deceptive, and also, wow. And also, like, the hand is not that great to be 3-betting in the first place. against an under the gun range. Now, facing the squeeze here in the call, we're going to be calling. It's not a great spot, of course, because we're going to be dominated by aces very often from the big blind, or ace king king, or double suited hands like ace king king or ace ace or king king. You get the point. Ah, okay. Okay. How about that? I'm gonna shove here and rep either a blocker or top set of kings. Fortunately, doesn't work. I think this play actually does work some of the time, and people tend to call there quite loosely. Specifically, guys who stabbed the flop for such a big sizing, they probably tend to make a few more mistakes. Anyway, this has been the session. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Fernando, aka JNandez87, and we see each other in the next video.